You know, even if Kamala Harris were intelligent and gifted, a gifted speaker or something like that, there's no way she could defend what has happened at the border. Joe Biden can't, she can't. If they were asked objective, real questions, it's indefensible. How about our loss in Afghanistan? No, they can't. This is part of the reason why they're hiding. These answers are beyond them, and they're not good at politics. They're not good at it. They have to be. The monstrosity, the depravity at the White House, that is indefensible. And so is the crime wave that they have encouraged. The legalization, essentially, of shoplifting and this bogus conversation America's had about race.
Newsmax's Greg Kelly seems to be teetering towards tantrum status as his guy continues to struggle, and VP Harris's momentum shows no signs of slowing down.
Guess who might just be on the fence and thinking about endorsing Kamala Harris? George W. Bush. Remember that guy? Yeah. Word is he's contemplating an endorsement of Kamala Harris. There was a rumor during the DNC that there was some momentum that he was going to do it during the DNC. And now there's speculation that he might do it before the election at some point. What a disgrace. How dare he, after what he brought this country through and what we're going through right now, things that he doesn't have to deal with because he's rich and he's ensconced in a cocoon of comfort. The rest of us have to deal with this stuff.
How dare he, after all that he put the country through, that the Republican Party backed him up on for 8 years, before the party set their sights on attacking his successor for the original sin of being black. The very telling development that has Republicans and former Republicans endorsing Harris, despite the big differences in policy positions, is freaking MAGA Republicans out.
There are big signs that the Republican Party, I mean, the establishment, the Rhino, the country club set, are doing all they can to help Kamala. More than 200 Bush, McCain, Romney alums endorse Harris for president and criticize Trump, going out of their way to do this. And let's look at their endorsement of Harris. I mean, this is unnecessary. We jointly declare that we're voting for Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz this November. Abroad, Democratic movements will be irreparably jeopardized as Trump and his acolyte J.D. Vance kowtow to dictators like Vladimir Putin while turning their backs on our allies. We can't let that happen. You know, like they're not going to let it happen, right? They're not going to let it happen. 200 people from the swamp signed this letter. And remind you something, right? When people come together and sign letters when they're in the swamp, a couple of names are, well, not that noteworthy, but the titles are interesting. Let's put them up. One by one, if you don't mind. 200 rhinos.
Did you notice that he didn't deny that Trump and Vance kowtowed to dictators while turning their backs on allies? Maybe because he doesn't mind that they kneel to dictators. All he cared about was the line saying that they won't let it happen again. You know, it's already bad enough that every living Republican president or party nominee has rejected Donald Trump by either staying silent or openly opposing him. But now that Greg Kelly is worried about the possibility of the one living former Republican president throwing his support behind Harris, he's got a viewer that's very interested in what's going to happen next. Maybe he knew Trump was watching, so he dug in on the old W some more.
All right, so this brings me back to W. That guy, you know, he's got all the prestige, all the fame, any door in the world is really open to this guy. An ex-president of the United States? Think about what you could do with that clout. What does he do? Paints paintings in his basement. Paints high school quality paintings in his basement. Imagine that his endorsement actually is coveted, though, right? It would shock the world in a way. It shouldn't. And actually, his endorsement should be rejected by anyone after that little thing known as Iraq.
The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, too. Anyway, 75.
Not cute.
At this point in MAGA circles, they believe that W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Don Rumsfeld were a bunch of libs that were thirsty for an invasion of Iraq. They're even playing videos of Bush saying ridiculous things about the wars that he started. The irony is off the charts.
These privileged people. How about the family? You ever see, what's her name, Jenna on the Today Show? I mean, they just go with the wind. Now, they're liberal and woke crazy over there in the mainstream media. Who remembers a football player, Butker, who had a few things to say about family life and tradition, and just maybe the most fulfilling thing in life might be having children, motherhood. You can say that, but you can't say it without apparently tripping out Jenna Bush.
The work they do is incredible.
Yes.
And let's not compare one to the other.
And
by a man.
Thank you. And there are lots of women who actually would like to stay at home. But because they need to earn money,
100%.
they don't even have that privilege.
It's an elitist concept to begin with.
Right.
The daughter of a president complaining about elitist constructs to begin with. I know she's kind of not the issue, and she's not.
So who is this supposed to convince? Who's the audience that Newsmax is hoping to see this guy rant and rave about how much he suddenly hates the Bush family for being generationally rich and undeserving of a role that W bungled over and over again, especially when it's for the sake of Donald Trump, who was rich because of his father and is undeserving of the job as president that he bungled over and over. I think Greg Kelly was only broadcasting for one guy.
You know, the Iran-Iraq war, this a long time ago, he talked about an active weapons WMD program, and there wasn't one. Yet, 100,000 guys invaded Iraq, and lots of them died, and no weapons of mass destruction. And a lot of Iraqis died too, innocent people. Yeah, there was no real accountability ever, until a man named Trump showed up.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake.
Was that sweet or what? And the Bushes, that's the reason why they hate him. That's the reason why W just might endorse Kamala Harris before Election Day.
Who knew that after 16 years, conservative pundits would be repeating the things that progressives were saying about George W. Bush's wars, his cowboy persona, and how easily he got away with it? Any position is feasible when the goal is to advance Trump's dreams of installing himself as a fascist president. He even criticized Bush for being all buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin. Yes, the Vladimir Putin that tells Donald Trump to beg, roll over, and heal.
You know, they said Donald Trump was cozy with Putin, too cozy with Putin. That's not true, but this is, and this is disturbing.
President Bush took his Russian guest on a morning fishing trip where Putin was the only one to catch a fish, but the Russian president called it a team effort. Back on land with Mr. Bush's mother, father, and wife watching from a distance, the two presidents discussed their talks and answered questions.
And W said, that's the time he said, I believe this guy. I can look at him and I know he's telling me the truth, right? Vladimir Putin, I look into his soul.
Would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people. But I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.